Even the night is over, that's how I find the light. Tonight had been a night that he knew would be a good one. He'd just managed to score Green Hill's baseball team a winning home run earlier that day, and after being hoisted upon Tom's shoulders and whisked away to the car so that the five Wachowskis could celebrate with ice cream on a sunny summer afternoon. It'd been particularly quiet tonight, with celebratory ice creams and movies all around. Sonic had, of course, begged Tom to let them watch Speed at least 12 times over.
12, bud, really?
Tom had raised a brown down at his son, surprised by his favoritism of the movie. Well, not surprised as in he had no idea that Speed was Sonic's favorite movie, but by how many times he'd wanted to watch it. Sonic gave a sheepish smile, rubbed the back of his neck.
I guess it's not the best movie to watch now that Tails is around, huh?
Sade Fox didn't seem to have been paying attention, instead staring at Maddie in complete and utter awe, enamored in whatever story it was that she was telling him. The smile twisted up higher, into a grin. Then, turning his attention back to Tom, it softened again as Tom messaged one of his ears.
Tell me how about if you wanted to go for a run and come back in time for some hot cocoa on the porch so we can look at the stars.
Sonic leaned into his father's side for a moment, one arm draped around his shoulders, and gave a firm nod.
Yeah, I like that.
Tom gave the hedgehog's shoulder a small squeeze, before offering his free hand in the shape of a fist.
So power bump on it.
To which a gloved, slightly larger fist all too quickly reached out and bumped against Tom's knuckles.
You know I'd never say no to that.
A laugh, Tom rubbing between Sonic's ears before he jumped down from the sofa.
All right, I'm gonna get going before you bust out another one of your terrible dad jokes.
His father drew out an overdramatic gasp, expression now visibly horrified before the blue blur smirked, turning and heading over to the door.
Be careful.
Maddie called after him. Upon hearing the door click open, the smirk melted into a more delicate thing, a smile.
Love you guys.
Then he was gone, out the door after having closed it shut with a clack. Into the night, with a fresh scent of pine trees and sticky leaves infiltrated his nostrils, the twitters and chirps of all different species of bird echoed throughout his eardrums, the faint chatter from the town nearby. This was home. Upon reaching his most favorite spot in the small town, he sat down, legs folded beneath him as he stared out, beyond the horizon. He'd come so far, gained so many friends, a family. Yet, he felt so strange about it all, just sitting here, contemplating the fact that all this was true. Sometimes, he honestly couldn't believe it. After a moment he was able to snap himself out of it with a blink of his eyes, shake of his head. His heart tugged, pulled, begging for him to return home to a nice warm mug of cocoa. Yet his mind wanted for him to stay sitting here forever, the cold, fresh air of a beautiful night filled with stars staring back at him. And with the guide of the pale, silver moonlight, he was home within a few mere seconds. Tom was standing out on the porch, a mug emitting steam held by the handle in his right hand.
Hey, there's my love spinster.
Sonic gave an overdramatic scoff, giving a dismissive wave of his hand.
Oh, please, I'm your only speedster.
The quip was paled in comparison to his grin, his heart swelling with warmth. He zipped over to Tom, now standing in front of him.
Well, am I gonna get to drink Mom's famous hot cocoa or what?
A laugh at his son's eagerness, and Tom knelt down before him.
Be careful.
He remarked, voice firm as he handed Sonic the mug.
It's not called hot cocoa for no reason.
And whenever Tom's voice was serious as such, Sonic knew that he meant it.
Yes, sir.
Yet the Hulk's voice still remained so laid back and carefree.
Hedgehog, you returned from you and Johnny. I see.
Knuckles' voice caused for Sonic to startle, the flinch that rattled his body, shaking his hands unsteadily, and it spilled out from the rims of the mug. Sonic's teeth clench, a wince escaping him as the searing liquid seeped through his gloves.
Okay.
Sonic's voice was strained.
That is hot.
Tom's expression twisted in an instant upon his gaze returning to focus on his son, a frown forming across his lips.
But did you burn your hands?
His voice was soft, and at the meek nod Sonic gave, his lips drawing back in a thin line, the mug was taken from his hands.
Is something wrong, warrior?
Knuckles was beside the pair now.
You scared me.
Sonic's voice was unusually hushed.
And I burned my hands with the hot cocoa.
He was given a frown, a genuine glint within the Echida's eyes.
My apologies, Hedgehog. Is there anything I can do to help?
Tom sighed.
Thanks for the offer, Nooks, but I think we gotta take him to Manny.
Before Sonic had the chance to protest, Tom had already scooped him up with one of his arms and paced inside, letting Knuckles in after him before closing the front door.
Hey, Vance, we've got a station.
He spoke once he was in the kitchen, placing both the mug and Sonic upon the island.
Dad!
He began.
What happened?
Maddie was immediately in front of Sonic, placing her first aid kit on the table, his face between her hands.
A cocoa incident.
Tom spoke from behind, a hand now resting atop Maddie's shoulder. She released his face from her cautious grasp, reaching for his hands and paused.
Can I?
Glance up at him to make sure. Once given a nod, Maddie carefully pulled her son's gloves off his hands, holding back the urge to pepper light kisses across his forehead in apologies at the pain in his eyes.
I'm sorry, Dad.
His voice was so strained, tears springing to life in Sonic's emerald eyes, and they shined in the light.
I didn't mean to.
Tom quickly stepped forward, kneeling next to Maddie as she tended to Sonic's wounded hands.
Hey, it's okay. I need to apologize, but
He wiped a tear from the hedgehog's muzzle.
it's not your fault.
He'd have to have a talk with Knuckles about him unexpectedly appearing and scaring people sometime soon, before another incident like this happened again. Of course it wasn't Sonic's fault, but at the same time, it wasn't exactly Knuckles' fault, either. He had quite known what the consequences of his actions would be, would he? Well, that talk would have to be set aside for now. Because Tom was going to make sure his son's recovery was as painless as possible.